Summer Mitsuhide is the third 5-star flame dagger unit, behind Azelith and Galaxy. This puts her up against two long-standing DPS monsters in the flame element, especially since both of them possess mana spirals. So what does Mitsuhide bring to the table? Well, like her normal version, she hits fast, hits a lot, and deals damage over time ailments, with a degree of reliance on damage over time for increased damage. Let's see what does she bring in further detail. Her first skill, Mouse's Summer Revenge, deals 1122% damage and inflicts scorchrend. When she possesses at least a single sizzling sunflower, the variant, Mouse's Midsummer Revenge is used instead. Mouse's Midsummer Revenge deals 2149% damage, deals increased damage to scorchrend enemies, based on combo count, and makes this skill immediately ready for use. This skill also consumes 1 stack of sizzling sunflower. This skill hits a lot, has good damage modifiers, and has low SP cost. Speaking of SP cost, this skill's shared SP cost is actually the lowest among scorchrend inflicting skills, making this skill one of the most useful shared skills available. Next, the scorchrend Punisher built into Mouse's Midsummer Revenge works differently than a typical Punisher. At base, it has an additional 10% damage increase, and up to 50% at 50 hits, which isn't hard to achieve, given that she hits incredibly fast. Last but not least, the built-in 100% skill prep can permit a burst damage playstyle, with such playstyle permitting use of some interesting abilities that we'll get to later on. Overall, this is a great skill, as an scorchrend applicator, and permitting distinct playstyles to be used. Her second skill, Dance of the Cornered Mouse, has also a low cost of 4110 SP. It grants her a sizzling sunflower, which can stack up to 3 times. It also grants her a strength amp at every 2 users, with a high maximum level of team strength amp. This skill is incredibly similar to Summer Ieyasu's second skill, the only difference being the slightly different SP costs and overall functionally. While Ieyasu's skill deals great damage, this one grants a special effect that enhances her first skill. The low SP costs seems to be a pattern for these two units, and allows for a high burst rate for her first skill. Overall, this skill functions very well as a booster to her first skill, with Strength Amp being an excellent complement to the skill. Summer Mitsuhide has the typical critical rate co ability, accompanied by yet another ignorable wind resistant chain co ability. Though I say that, it's easy to achieve, and at times, that 10% could be a life or death situation. For her abilities, we'll look first at Squeaky Scramble. Not only does it look absolutely awesome, it also works quite interestingly. When the enemy is in break state, she gets a damage reduction of her dragon skill and her first skill by 15%, but gains a 5% attack rate boost. She also gets a further 10% attack rate boost when her first skill is available for use. The damage reduction is short-lived, as the duration of break state is quite short. The attack rate boost when her first skill is ready somehow further promotes a burst playstyle. Her Flurry Scorchrend Punisher increases damage to Scorchrend enemies by 35% when she achieves 15 combo or higher, an easy feat to be achieved by Mitsuhide, and further increasing her total damage output, though this makes her quite reliant on Scorchrend to maintain high damage output. Her sleep resistance is not so different from stun resist, as both immobilize the unit, and even has the exact same mechanics. The only downside is that she'll have trouble fighting high Mijard Soma unless her Wimprint setup is reconfigured, or if she has the Eagle's Boon Wimprint affinity bonus. Summer Mitsuhide is a fast attacking unit that can inflict Scorchrend and has increased damage against Scorchrend foes. Her peculiarity lies in the skill prep of her first skill and the multiple stacks of sizzling sunflower. This allows for a burst playstyle where she would first inflict Scorchrend, then collect 3 sizzling sunflowers before unleashing high damage by using her first skill 3 times consecutively. Of course, she can also utilize the 1-2-1 pattern, where she first uses her initial skill to inflict scorchrend, then sizzling sunflower, then her first skill again for Punisher, and repeat immediately, thanks to the skill prep of the first skill and low SP cost of the second skill. For her suitable abilities, normally I would shy away from skill haste for units with low SP costs. However, as her skill deals increased damage to scorchrend foes, while requiring a sizzling sunflower stack, and the fact that each stack of scorchrend has a limited duration, she'll need to charge her skills fast to make sure she can get her sizzling sunflower and cast her enhanced first skill in time before scorchrend expires. An alternative is to have some Paralysis in the team. Other offensive abilities should work fine for her as well, especially skill damage and more scorchrend Punisher. For her dragon, I'll personally pick Horus as my top choice, as he increases attack rate and crit rate, in which the attack rate reduces the need of skill haste. Both Goza Tenno and Reborn Ani have high damage modifiers that are also suitable for her. Sakuya is also a good pick for more skill damage. Takatsuchi is an interesting dragon for her, particularly for a burst playstyle, as her first skill is kept into shade for some time. These last three are good dragons to use if there aren't any other dragons available for her. For weapons, the Hottie is an excellent weapon, with offensive and defensive modes to suit the situation on the battlefield. Flame Ruler's Maw is the next best dagger for her, with similar stats, but having a much more inferior skill. My Wimprint setup for her focus is exclusively on being able to rely on Scorchrend to inflict more damage. She also gets standard offensive abilities typical for a dagger unit. The reliance on Scorchrend in my build requires a shared skill with Scorchrend resistance reduction to maintain her effectiveness in long battles. Other usable prints are shown here. Summer Mitsuhide is definitely another impressive flame dagger unit, with focus on fast attack speeds and significantly increased damage towards scorchrend foes. Her low shared SP cost on her shareable skill allows her skill to be a good shared skill when a scorchrend applicator is required. She does have a major weakness though, and it's her dependency on scorchrend. If the enemy becomes resistant to scorchrend, Mitsuhide loses a lot of her damage output. This is why she has to be paired with a unit that can reduce scorchrend resistance, or have shared skills that can do that job, to maintain her effectiveness. But overall, she is definitely a good unit to have in any team, just make sure she has certain teammates, or have certain skills, to keep her from being obsolete. Now go out there, and enjoy what's left of this year's summer. That's all from me. Moga out.